Good afternoon, ladies and gents. It's your favorite NBA basketball personality, Nass here. Season 3, we're still going down. We got a lot to talk about on today's episode of Nass. I'm going to be touching upon my All-Star starters, reserves. I have a NBA power poll that I'm going to go through, basically highlighting. I did 15 teams, not the whole 30. I feel like, especially with how powerful the West is and how many like prominent teams over there, I felt like 15 teams is appropriate just because that's just how many competitive teams there are in the league right now. So I have all-star stars and reserves, NBA power poll, and then I have some a couple extra storylines I want to touch upon, and I'm obviously gonna have my tangents that kind of go off topic for 1 to 2 minutes, as you guys are, accustomed to on Nass the Pod Season 3. Starting off, my Eastern Conference starters, I want to go through that real quick. In my backcourt, I had Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Halliburton, and then my 3 frontcourt stars were Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Joel Embiid. My Eastern Conference reserves, for those of you that aren't familiar with the All-Star format and how things kind of go down, it's not just, basically a free 7 spots that are voted in. It's an actual additional lineup. So 2 guards, 3 forwards, and then they give out 2 wildcard spots for any extra player that they feel like is deserving of the nom. So my Eastern Conference reserves, in my backcourt, I had Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey. And then my 3 forward spots were Jaylen Brown, Julius Randle, Bam Adebayo, and then my 2 wildcard spots were Damian Lillard and Trae Young. All-Star is always fun. It's always a fun kind of assessment discussion just because you really get to evaluate who's really been productive. It's an exercise where you're weighing how much do the numbers contribute to winning an impact. That's basically how people do it today. Me, myself, I like to see it as a balance. I like to see it as a balance of that. There has to be some sort of prominence, like all-star, like to you. Like I feel like you just can't be a guy that just puts up numbers. I feel like there has to be something that would gravitate you to an all-star, whether that's you're contributing to wins or your play style or your identity. Like they don't have to be this huge marketable guy or this guy that drops 30 a night to be an all-star. But you also don't just have to be this like winning player on a winning team that's top of the conference to be an all-star. That's where I feel like things kind of get misconstrued. Trae Young didn't initially make it. I believe he was snubbed for Paolo Banchero. So Paolo Banchero didn't make my cut, and it was no slouch on him. But I just felt like this is Trae Young. There has to be some sort of all-star pedigree. I understand the Hawks aren't the best team in the East, or they're not really thriving. They've kind of been a team that's kind of walked on eggshells. But at the end of the day, this is a guy that's averaging 27 and 10. The Atlanta Hawks are a top 7-8 offensive rating team, and you already know who the nucleus of that offense is, Trae Young. I just feel like a guy like Trae Young, he gets slighted too much. I know I've talked about it on numerous occasions dating back, to last season. But, I just feel like enough is enough. Like Allen Iverson was career 26, 27 a night on 41% shooting. Like he wasn't this, advanced metric superstar. And he's not some guy that analytic nerds just gravitated to. So I just feel like Trae Young he's the most scouted player on the team. He's been the most scouted player on the team basically since he got drafted, similar to guys like Luka Doncic. But I just feel like he gets slighted because of his size. But the guy's tiny and he's a baller. He's just a baller. He's a soldier. Like he's gonna fight. And guys like Trae Young, those are the type of players that actually inspire young kids to go out and play and dream about making it to the NBA, because you got this little kid, well not little kid, I shouldn't say that, but you got this little guy in Trae Young who is just a prolific offensive weapon. You have to be up on him right as soon as he passes half court. He's comfortable taking whatever shot, shooting distance wise. And then on top of that, in the pick and roll, he's one of the best pick and roll passers, I'll say of his generation already. The assist numbers are off the charts. I know his turnovers a little bit high, but all these guys, Harden, LeBron, CP3, Russ, all those guys, all the highest assist number guys, they were also high turnover guys. So I feel like people just pick on Trae Young, I think because he's an easy target, he's tiny. But someone should tell me, how many All-NBA guys has he played with? How many All-Stars has he played with? I know he gets labeled a coach killer. Trae Young's already been an All-NBA, All-Star guy. He's been to the playoffs, so and I don't see his game falling off. That's the thing that is confusing is that when he came into the league, he was putting up numbers, but he wasn't a big star yet. So we gave him these couple All-Stars, started making the playoffs, and now his numbers keep going up. Like he keeps improving as a player, but his recognition just, as the seasons go by, it's like his name just keeps getting quieter and quieter, and no one, tends to really mention his name. But I wanted to show some love to Trae Young. I had him on my All-Star team. I had a tougher time in the Western Conference, to be honest with you. But I'll start off with my starters in the West. In my backcourt, I had Shai Gilgeous, Luka Doncic. Just like a lot of people, the front court was where it really got tricky because, you got, obviously Jokic is a lock, so you already know he's taking up one spot. But then you have two wing positions, and you really have three forwards who I guess are all deserving of it, but you just have to pick your two. I had Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard, and obviously the third forward was LeBron James. So I had LeBron James as a reserve. I'll start off with Kawhi. I feel like he should have been, even before Jokic, I feel like he should have just been the first front court guy to just be named, just because the Clippers are arguably the best team in the league. They've been on a ridiculous stretch. Believe they're like 26-5 over their last 31 or something like that. Like they're a top 10 offensive rating team, a top 15 defensive rating team. They play both sides of the court, and they can, beat you in a multitude of ways. Obviously they have their 4 stars, and I touched up on it, a month ago, talking about how, having the whole all-time playmaker on the floor at all times is going to help simplify the game for PG, Kawhi Leonard. You see guys like Norman Powell. He's like a 6th Man of the Year candidate. Amir Coffey. He's come in, hit some big shots, been an extra defender. And, Terrence Mann, great slasher, additional defender, good athlete, can run in transition. So they're deep. It's more than just these 4 guys. And, a month and a half ago, I said that the reason why the Clippers went on this run, the most important reason why, was because Kawhi Leonard returned to being a top 5, top 7 guy in the league. Actually, I won't even say top 7 because I can't even think of 6 guys I would take in a playoff setting before Kawhi. And I think I saw something a couple of days ago. He is like 50-50, 90 shooting splits over the past like 20 games or something ridiculous like that. So he, not only did he deserve to start, I actually have him like in my MVP conversation. I'll get to my MVP mountain later on, but he's been too prolific as a scorer and as a player, and he's playing at too high of a level for him not to be in the conversation, regardless of, bench performance and, how PG's playing, how Harden's playing, how Russ is playing. They're winning games. He's putting up ridiculous numbers. Obviously, the counting stats aren't going to be at like I said, a 28, 5 and 6 or a 35 and 4, crazy 50, 40, 90. His shooting splits are great, but the counting stats aren't going to be there because there's just so many guys on the team that need touches. So yeah, that was my Kawhi Leonard, basically starting nod rant. I felt like it was very understated, low-key kind of disrespectful. I mean, what else did you really want him to do, especially with the guys that he plays with? Like, people didn't think that he was actually going to put up 27, 28 a game with Harden, PG, and Russ. Like, I hope not. But what you did hope for was for them to be a cohesive unit and them to win games, and that's what they've been doing. And I feel like him being the alpha in the room, because, if you're going down the all-time players, he's, if you're probably splitting hairs with certain conversations. I know Harden and Russ have had, luxurious careers, but Kawhi's got 2. He's got 2 Finals MVPs. That's nothing to knock. And the rest of the guys on the team don't have any. They haven't been at that stage. They haven't. That's the feeling that they're chasing. And Kawhi is the leader of that team. So, I felt like he was very well deserving of a spot. Kevin Durant. And I know I say it like every other 2 weeks that I talk about how amazing he is and all these things. And this is no slight at LeBron, but I just feel like Kevin as an individual player has just been better. I just feel like he's just been slightly better than LeBron this year. Obviously, the Lakers have beaten the Suns, I believe, I think they've faced off like 3 times. I think it's like 2-1 LA. But, a couple of those games, the Suns were injury riddled. I think Beal missed the first 2. Booker might have missed one of those first 2 LA games. But I just felt like, he's third in 3-point percentage. There's been a significant amount of games where he's stepped up as the, bona fide, ball stopper. And specifically, I believe it was a Kings Suns game a couple weeks ago. They were down double digits. They came back. They eventually won the game. But one of the ways that they were able to win the game was that they went small. KD started guarding guys like 1 through 5. He had positions against Fox, Sabonis, Monk, Trey Lyles, Keegan Murray, like all these guys. He was just switching, and he was just a Swiss Army knife. It was actually like a beautiful two-way performance. And someone like me who's watched KD, just like you guys, we've seen KD for a very, very long time. And I don't think we can point to like a particular stretch, maybe in Oklahoma City or in Golden State. Actually, probably more so Golden State, but he was surrounded with all NBA level defenders with Iggy, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. So him being able to, he's being asked to be, the third, fourth, best defender. If we look back at his career on his timeline, I don't think we can really pinpoint like a particular stretch where he was playing like all defensive league basketball. And he's been doing that. And he's older, so with all the miles on his legs, I'm not going to put him on a pedestal and expect him to play at that level on the defensive end every night, just because that's just not fair. That's not fair to him because, he's, 35 years old, but we're not holding these older guys to, this expectation that they need to be this all NBA defensive, guy. And KD's had some, good stretches where he's been able to showcase that he can impact the game outside just scoring and shooting. So that's been good to see. And the Suns, they've turned it around. They were one of the best teams in January. They've completely turned around. Beal being healthy is a huge part of that. And of course, I have to include like the little nings and dings that Booker and KD were able to get over. They missed their fair share of games too early on. I have to be honest with myself. So that's my starting five: Shea, Luka, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, Nikola Jokic. My West reserves. This got really, really tricky. This is where I'm probably gonna like go off the rails, or people are gonna have like some issues with me. But like I said, it's 2 guards, 3 front court, and then 2 additional wild card spots. So in my backcourt, I went with Devin Booker, Anthony Edwards. Front court, LeBron James, Paul George. Center is Anthony Davis, and then my 2 wild card spots. This is really, really where things get crucial. I gave the 2 spots to Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving. Now, before I get into their cases, I understand, there's a long list of guys that are very, capable of, being voted in. Obviously, there's Brandon Ingram. The Pelicans are a top 6, top 7 team in the West. They've been, a solid two-way team, a great deep team. I feel like Brandon Ingram has basically been the connector for everything they do offensively, unless Zion is just, wreaking havoc on the offensive end and his matchup can't keep up with him. But other than that, outside of like nights like that, I just feel like Brandon Ingram he's just a complete tone setter for them on offense. And his counting stats are not going to be a reflection of that because, like I said, they're very deep. He's kind of in a similar situation as Kawhi Leonard. The volume, the touches, he's not dominating the ball like some of these higher usage guys like Luka, Tyrese Halliburton, De'Aaron Fox, Booker, like all those guys. But his impact is there. 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 48% from the field, shooting 35 from 3. He's one of the league's best pull-up jump shooters. He kind of checked all the boxes to be, to get one of the wild card spots. Another person, Jamal Murray, 21, 3 and 6, 48 from the field, 41 from 3. He's missed some games. Obviously, he dealt with a tiny stretch where Jokic was out. But he held it down. He held it down. It's Jamal Murray. And then Karl Anthony Towns, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 52% from the field, 44% from 3. He's taking 5 a night. The Wolves are the top 2 team in the West. They have been all year. All the boxes are checked for like those 3 players to, make it. But at the end of the day, I'll start off with Steph Curry. First off, Steph Curry, I understand. Steph Curry, he played... Let's see. He's played 41 games. He's averaging 27.5 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 5 assists. 45 from the field, 40 from 3, 92 from the free throw line. So, Golden State's had a season from hell, obviously, with the whole Draymond suspension. Clay, you know, Clay's decline being a lot more, evident right now. We can really see that he's starting to not break down, but he's starting to approach the closing chapters of his career. He's obviously not the same player that he was in 2018, 2019. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with declining. I mean, he is, if you're a guy that tears your ACL, tears your Achilles, it's even getting back to, an all-star level is already hard enough. And this is a guy that was an all-NBA, all-star, two-way sniper, and he was a huge, huge component to what the Dubs were doing, throughout their whole dynasty and all those years that they were dominating the league. So, Steph has had to overcome a lot. I hasn't particularly been fair to him. The Warriors, as of late, I believe in January, they're actually a top 6. I know they're definitely top 10. I forget where, but they're definitely a top 10 offensive rating team. I think they might have been 6th or 7th or something like that. But obviously, we already know why. It's just Steph Curry. His effect is just his gravity is just it's too much. It's too much, and in a lot of ways, because his presence is so strong, it creates open looks for everyone else. And this is kind of like the only calling card that I bring when we talk about Magic Johnson versus Steph Curry is, Magic Johnson was a quarterback, all-time quarterback of the offense, orchestrator, floor general, an all-time, passer in transition, floor raiser. He just made everyone better. You know what I mean? He made everyone better. But my thing with Steph Curry can make you better without even passing you the ball. You know what I mean? How many plays have we seen where Steph Curry is just playing decoy and creates, a back cut or an easier path to the rim for another teammate? It's just been, I'm sure if someone was to actually do the tape on that, the total of, buckets that were assisted by Steph Curry without him actually passing the ball, you'd be pretty impressed. So in my opinion, I feel like his gravity, his presence has always made up for some of the assist numbers that people will throw at you when they bring up Magic. And I'm not here saying that Steph is better than Magic, but you understand where I'm getting at is Magic is, they're two different types of players. And I feel like when you're talking about a point guard, yes, Steph might not be a point guard, granted he's played the position. He's a different, he's a different type of point guard. So he's kind of an anomaly when it comes to playmaking. He has a lot of impacts on the game that you're not going to see in the box score. There's buckets that he creates that are not quantified. You can't quantify his impact. You know what I mean? That's the thing with basketball these days is everyone thinks that once someone is on the floor, you can just quantify what they're doing. You can find the exact amount of impact. There's no definitive number. There's no definitive integer on impact and how you play the game and how you play with teammates and affect the game in a positive way. There's no analytic for that. You just have to do your best job at watching the game. And obviously, we have box scores, we have stats. We have to do your best judgment at, interpreting what you're watching and how it correlates to, the data that you see. So Steph Curry, I feel like he's just an anomaly. That's why when we talk about best point guard ever, I feel like he does have a say. He does have a say. He definitely has a say. My other wildcard spot, I had Kyrie Irving. Now, people are going to sit here and call me biased. But me personally, I think Kyrie has actually even been better than Steph Curry. Granted, he might have played 12 less games, but, Kyrie this year is what? Let's see. Kyrie Irving, 25.2 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 47% from the field, 41% from 3 on 7 attempts, 89 from the line. The Mavericks are, they're a playoff team. I believe they're the 6th or 7th seed right now in that juggernaut of a West. And the reason why I keep, basically throwing the seedings I use because I'm trying to really show you guys that the West is ridiculously competitive. So if you are in the thick of the playoff picture right now, like the Mavericks are, that means you're doing a decent job. Granted, the Mavericks only 4 games over 500, but they've kind of had a season from hell, kind of like the Warriors. Kyrie's missed 40% of the season to this point. I know people aren't shocked that he's had an availability issue, but he is older. He didn't even come into the season healthy. I believe he had a bum foot. So we haven't even really gotten a solid Kyrie stretch of healthy basketball. But, like I said, 25, 5, and 5. The Mavericks are actually a better offensive team when he's on the floor, and they have a better net rating. So you can't poke holes and say, his stats are, empty list. But I like what I've been seeing from Kyrie. He's been, rebounding the ball. He's participating on defense. And yeah, those are the two wild card spots. And it really, as much as I talked about, the solid seasons that Karl-Anthony Towns is having, Jamal Murray, Brandon Ingram, I just believe that when it comes down to it, if you're really picking all-star teams, I just don't think you're going to pick any of those guys over Steph and Kyrie. My criteria for all-stars is a teeny bit different. Obviously, I take regular season and how they've impacted the game into account. I don't dwell too much on, games played just because, all right, when I wrote this down, Steph had played, I believe, 41 games and Kyrie had played 27. Those are scary numbers, especially Kyrie's 27 games. But my main thing is, if player X is playing like a top 10 player for 27 games, why would I care about player Y playing, at a top 20 level in the league for 40 games? You know what I mean? It's just one of those things. It's kind of just one of those, it's kind of how I go about it. You know what I mean? And I guess availability, I'm not trying to water it down, but with these all NBA teams, all-star teams, and this 65 game rule, I talked about it last year, how it's dumb, and it's going to affect how people get paid. It's going to affect how families eat, and I think I always thought it was a big problem because availability in the NBA right now, it's unpredictable. It's just like any other sport. So you putting a cap on the amount of games you got to play in order to be eligible for X amount of dollars, that's crazy, because all NBA teams, we're going to do all NBA a couple months from now, and I'm going to have to look at the game count, and there's going to be certain guys that aren't qualified to make my all NBA team because of the games they played. So Joel Embiid say he plays 53 games this year, but Jokic played 67, so automatically he's got to be past him. I think that's bull. Embiid has been better than Jokic this year. In the 50 games he's been available, he's been better. So obviously I'm going to lean towards him. So in my opinion, I just don't think Towns, Jamal, or B.I., I don't think I've seen those three play at a higher level than Kyrie and Steph. And, Steph Curry, obviously he's not going to miss it. The Golden State Warriors, I believe they're a half game out of the plane. So they're going to sneak into the plane. Draymond Green is back. They're going to form an identity. They're going to go on a little run. They do this all the time. They did this last year too. I believe they were struggling for a little bit. And then, Clay was cold. Clay came back. Clay kind of came back to normal. And, they kind of went on a run. And obviously you saw, they took the Kings, battled them to 6-7 games, advanced, and they lost to the Lakers. But no one expected them to go on that foreseeable run. So, that's all I got for the West, honestly. All right, so, ladies and gents, we are reaching the halfway point of the night. Let's get it. Relax. I'm trying to put you on your back where you at. I need it right now, no cap.